If you're watching this on December 24th or 25th, stop scrolling right now. This message isn't random. It's divinely timed. Chosen one. Heaven has marked this exact moment as your spiritual crossing point. December 24 to 25 isn't just another holiday. It's the divine threshold where God is drawing a clear line between who you were and who you're becoming. The old you is officially over. Feel that strange stirring in your spirit, that quiet knowing? That's heaven confirming this word is specifically for you. The old version of yourself is ending, and it will not be resurrected. Chosen one? Before we go deeper, pause for a moment. If this message is already speaking to your spirit, don't just watch silently. Subscribe now so you don't miss the confirmations God sends your way. You know how the enemy tries to distract you right when you need a word the most. You've been experiencing a shift that others can't see. You haven't announced it. You may not even fully understand it yet, but your spirit knows. There's a midnight calling happening in your soul. While others sleep through their destiny, you've been awakened at the exact divine moment. That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. The spiritual realm is watching you receive this message. Angels are on assignment. The enemy is trembling. God is highlighting you because what he's about to release into your life cannot function in mixed environments. Notice how you're feeling less attached to people and patterns that once consumed you. You're not bitter. You're not cold. You're set apart. This isn't isolation. It's sacred preparation. This midnight calling is unlocking vision that others cannot comprehend. They see Christmas lights, but you're seeing spiritual signs. They hear holiday music, but you're hearing heaven's instructions. December 24 to 25 activates your spiritual senses in ways that will shock you. Expect dreams. Expect sudden clarity. Expect divine encounters. The veil between heaven and earth thins during this sacred window, and God has positioned you to receive what others will miss. The separation has already begun, though you didn't ask for it. Relationships are shifting. Conversations feel different. People who once seemed essential now feel optional. This isn't your imagination, it's divine realignment. God is separating you because the assignment ahead requires spiritual focus that most people cannot handle. Your calling demands protection. The attacks you've endured this past season would have destroyed someone else. Attacks on your peace, attacks on your confidence, attacks on your calling, betrayal from people you prayed with, distance from people you loved deeply, moments where you questioned if you were the problem. Hear this clearly. You were never the problem. You were the assignment. The enemy doesn't attack what has no future. This separation feels strange because it's happening without conflict. You're simply outgrowing spaces that once felt comfortable. You're finding peace in solitude that once felt lonely. You're losing interest in conversations that once seemed important. Your spiritual sensitivity is intensifying. Crowds now drain you. Shallow talk now bores you. False connections now repel you. This heightened discernment is your protection, not your problem. The first major spiritual attack is already underway, making you doubt this very separation, making you question if you're being too distant, too different, too changed, making you wonder if this spiritual awakening is actually depression or burnout. It's not. It's elevation. The comfort you once found in familiar places is being replaced by comfort you find in God's presence. The validation you once sought from people is being replaced by validation you receive from heaven. The old patterns that once defined you are dissolving because they cannot sustain your next level. December marks the beginning of this holy separation. What feels like loss is actually launch. The betrayal you experienced wasn't random, it was revelation. That person who claimed to walk with you in spiritual alignment while secretly opposing your calling, God allowed it to show you what was hidden. Remember how they spoke blessings with their mouth but carried judgment in their heart. How they celebrated you publicly but questioned you privately. How they used your vulnerability as ammunition. This was the first test of your discernment. Notice how it blindsided you? You gave them access to your deepest prayers, your authentic struggles, your genuine heart. Then came the shock. Their true feelings exposed through subtle comments, withdrawn support, and strange distance. What hurt most wasn't their actions, it was the divine permission that allowed it. Why would God let someone so close cause such deep pain? Because your destiny required this awakening. This betrayal activated spiritual gifts you didn't know you carried. Suddenly you could sense motives. Suddenly you could discern intentions. Suddenly you could hear what wasn't being said. The isolation that followed wasn't punishment, it was protection. While you felt abandoned by people, you were being embraced by purpose. In that quiet space of recovery, heaven deposited mysteries that only come through suffering. Your tears weren't wasted. They were watering seeds of wisdom that ordinary comfort could never grow. The enemy meant this betrayal to destroy your confidence. Instead, God used it to develop your character. What was sent to break you is actually building you. This betrayal will soon make perfect sense. The delay it caused, the pain it inflicted, the confusion it created, all of it was preparation for what's coming next. What looks like rejection is actually redirection. The silence from heaven isn't absence, it's alignment. This spiritual desert you're walking through isn't punishment, it's purification. Notice how your prayers seem to hit the ceiling, how direction feels foggy, how confirmations have gone quiet. This isn't abandonment, it's advancement. God creates spiritual hunger before spiritual feasting. The emptiness you feel is making space for what's coming next. Your body knows something is happening. Sleep patterns disrupted, appetite changing, energy fluctuating, unusual dreams, sudden tears, unexpected peace. These aren't random symptoms, they're spiritual transformation manifesting physically. In this desert, deceptive spiritual forces circle you with familiar lies. God has forgotten you. Your calling was imagination. Your gifts aren't real. Your breakthrough isn't coming. But notice something strange. Even as these thoughts attack, something deeper in you remains anchored. That's the hidden protection operating while you feel exposed. This desert is stripping away every artificial covering. Religious formulas no longer work. Surface-level faith no longer satisfies. Old spiritual methods no longer produce results. This isn't failure, it's graduation. What you don't realize is that while heaven seems silent, divine activity surrounds you. Angels are on assignment. Spiritual forces are being repositioned. Destiny connections are being prepared. The silence isn't empty, it's pregnant. Your spiritual muscles are strengthening in ways that only resistance can produce. Your spiritual eyes are adjusting to see in darkness. Your spiritual ears are being tuned to hear whispers instead of shouts. This desert isn't forever, it's for formation. When you emerge, you'll carry authority that can only be forged in the furnace of testing. What feels like divine distance is actually divine development. What you're experiencing isn't just your battle, it's generational. Those recurring struggles, those familiar blocks, those patterns that feel strangely inherited? They are. God is revealing your family's spiritual legacy, both the blessings and the burdens. You're carrying weight that doesn't belong to you, limitations that were passed down, fears that were transferred, curses that were spoken. This is why certain breakthroughs feel impossible despite your prayers. This is why certain behaviors emerge despite your best intentions. This is why certain doors remain closed despite your qualifications. Your ancestors made agreements you're still honoring. They accepted limitations you're still living under. They believed lies you're still fighting. But heaven has marked this season for ancestral clearing. Those dreams showing you family members you never met, those sudden insights about patterns spanning generations, those unexpected emotions connected to your lineage, that's divine revelation preparing you for freedom. God is taking you into the roots to heal the fruits. The process feels heavy because you're confronting the collective weight of decisions made before you were born. Your deliverance isn't just for you, it's for those who came before and those who will come after. You're the chosen circuit breaker in your bloodline. Watch how prayer suddenly cuts through resistance that counseling couldn't touch. Watch how forgiveness suddenly releases chains that determination couldn't break. Watch how divine declaration suddenly cancels effects that medicine couldn't cure. You're not just being healed, you're being historically realigned. This ancestral clearing is removing barriers between you and your destiny. Listen, I know you're watching quietly, just taking everything in. But chosen ones like you don't come across these messages by accident. If this is touching your soul, hit that subscribe button. Don't keep walking through spiritual warfare alone when a whole family of chosen ones is right here with you. This discomfort isn't punishment, it's transformation. The old version of you is dying, and death never feels comfortable. Your achievements suddenly feel hollow. Your credentials suddenly seem irrelevant. Your reputation suddenly means nothing. This isn't failure, it's freedom. God is stripping away every false identity you've built, every label you've accepted, every role you've performed, every mask you've worn, every title you've earned. This identity death feels like loss because you're surrendering what once defined you, the recognition, the validation, the certainty, the control. Notice how your ego fights to preserve what God is removing. How your pride resists this spiritual nakedness, how your mind scrambles to rebuild what heaven is dismantling. This resistance proves how necessary this death truly is. What's really dying is not you, but the illusion of you. The carefully constructed version that gained approval but lost authenticity. The socially acceptable version that fit in but never soared. The religiously correct version that looked right but lacked power. The divine fire isn't destroying, it's purifying. It's burning away what was never meant to remain. In this surrender, something strange happens. As you lose your grip on who you thought you were, you discover who you've always been. As external identities fall away, internal authority rises up. Your voice changes, less performance, more power. Your prayers change, less begging, more commanding. Your presence changes, less effort, more impact. This identity death feels final because it is. There's no resurrection of the old. What emerges from this process won't resemble what entered it. Your authentic spiritual authority was hidden under layers of false identity. As those layers burn away, what remains is not damaged, it's revealed. December 24th holds a divine appointment that heaven has arranged specifically for you. As the clock strikes midnight, a spiritual threshold opens that can't be crossed casually. The air feels different, doesn't it? More charged, more sacred, more aware. That's because the veil between natural and supernatural realms grows thin during this holy moment. What happens at this midnight crossing can't be reversed. You will step from one spiritual timeline to another. The person who enters Christmas Eve will not be the person who exits Christmas Day. This isn't symbolic. This is supernatural realignment of your spiritual DNA. In this sacred window, heaven is downloading new access codes into your spirit. New authority, new insight, new capacity. The limitations that once defined your spiritual experience are being permanently removed. Some will experience this as a physical sensation, warmth, electricity, deep peace, or holy tears. Others will simply know something has fundamentally shifted. Both experiences are equally valid confirmations. What God activates during this midnight crossing was always within you, but dormant until this appointed time. Like spiritual puberty, your capacity suddenly matures beyond what seems natural. The vision that follows this crossing will both overwhelm and empower you. You'll see the impact God has designed you to have, the lives you'll touch, the darkness you'll dispel, the territory you'll claim. The magnitude may frighten you, but the clarity will anchor you. This vision isn't fantasy, it's prophecy. What you see during this crossing is what heaven has already approved. In this midnight moment, a divine covenant is established, not a contract with conditions, but an unbreakable bond between your purpose and God's power. What He initiates, He will complete. What He reveals, He will resource. What He promises, He will perform. The old you truly ends at this crossing, not through death, but through divine translation to a higher reality. Prepare for sudden understanding that doesn't come through learning. Knowledge instantly appearing in your mind. Wisdom bypassing your intellect and landing directly in your spirit. This divine download will activate dormant prophetic gifts you didn't know you carried, like turning on lights in rooms you didn't know your house contained. You'll begin speaking with clarity that surprises even you. Insights flowing without effort, solutions appearing without analysis, direction emerging without confusion. This isn't intelligence, it's revelation. Past events suddenly make perfect sense. The delays that frustrated you, the doors that closed on you, the relationships that rejected you, the opportunities that eluded you, all of it forming a perfect pattern of protection and preparation. Your discernment sharpens beyond normal perception. You'll sense motives behind smiles, intentions behind words, spirits behind actions. This heightened awareness isn't paranoia, it's protection. People with hidden agendas will become painfully obvious to you. Their words may sound right, but your spirit will instantly recognize what's wrong. Trust this new clarity. It's a divine filter screening what seeks access to your life. You'll receive a new spiritual language, not just for prayer but for perception. New ways to articulate what you see in the spirit. New terminology for spiritual warfare. New expressions for heavenly concepts. This expanded vocabulary isn't for impressing others. It's for navigating realms that ordinary language can't describe. This download comes with responsibility. What heaven reveals to you isn't always meant to be shared. Some revelations are for intercession, not conversation. Some insights are for your navigation, not public declaration. The knowledge flowing into you now will continue expanding if you steward it properly. This initial download is just the beginning of a continuous divine transmission, upgrading your spiritual operating system. What you're experiencing isn't random resistance, it's targeted warfare. The opposition has a name, the attacks have a source, the warfare has a strategy, and now God is exposing it all. Certain spiritual forces were specifically assigned against your purpose the moment heaven marked you. They don't hate you personally, they fear your assignment. They attack what threatens their territory. More shocking will be the revelation of which human relationships have served as access points. People who seemed supportive, while secretly creating openings for attack. People whose jealousy, fear, or control made them unwitting collaborators with darkness. This exposure isn't to create paranoia, but to establish protection. You can't guard what you can't identify. You can't close doors you don't see open. God is revealing the exact battle map of your spiritual warfare. Which areas are under attack? Which relationships need boundaries? Which thoughts are foreign intrusions? Which emotions are manipulated reactions? With this divine intelligence comes divine strategy. Specific prayers that cut through resistance. Specific declarations that close access points. Specific boundaries that protect your purpose. Specific weapons designed for your unique battlefield. The enemy's retaliation will be swift but ineffective. As their cover is blown, they'll increase pressure, hoping to overwhelm you into retreat. But heaven has already established a shield that their weapons cannot penetrate. Your victory comes through unexpected spiritual weapons, weapons the enemy doesn't recognize and cannot counter. Not just familiar tools like fasting and prayer, but strange new instruments of warfare, strategic silence, divine indifference, holy laughter, purposeful rest, and abundant joy. These weapons seem weak to natural thinking, but prove devastatingly effective against spiritual opposition. What the enemy cannot understand, it cannot defend against. Everything is rearranging around your purpose. Watch how priorities suddenly clarify, values instantly realign, desires dramatically shift. What once seemed important now feels irrelevant. What once seemed optional now feels essential. This isn't confusion. It's divine recalibration. Your calendar will reflect this shift first. Certain activities that drained you suddenly disappear. Certain opportunities that distracted you suddenly close. Certain relationships that confused you suddenly clarify. Then come the divine appointments. Meetings that couldn't be arranged suddenly happen. Connections that seemed impossible suddenly form. Conversations that seemed unlikely suddenly open. These aren't coincidences. They're divine alignments orchestrated for your next level. Provision follows purpose. Watch how resources appear precisely when needed. Not always in advance, not always in abundance, but always on time. Financial doors, material support, practical help, specific knowledge, exact skills, perfect timing. The provision won't make sense logically. It will arrive through unexpected channels, in unconventional forms, from unlikely sources. This mysterious supply chain is designed to build your faith in divine resources rather than human systems. With alignment comes clear instruction. The foggy guidance of the past gives way to crystal clarity. Simple directives, precise timing, specific actions, no more confusion about what to do next. Most shocking will be the doors that close, doors you once desperately wanted open, opportunities you pursued, positions you coveted, relationships you chased, suddenly, divinely, permanently sealed. This isn't rejection, it's redirection. Not every good thing is the God thing. Not every open door leads to your purpose. The closed doors are as much a blessing as the open ones. Stop right here. If you haven't subscribed yet, ask yourself why. Every time you search for clarity, every time you feel overwhelmed, God guides you to messages like this. Don't reject what heaven is trying to give you. Subscribe so you stay connected to the voice that lifts you when no one else does. The authority now flowing through you isn't earned, it's transferred. A divine impartation that shifts you from asking to commanding, from hoping to knowing, from begging to declaring. This power transfer changes how heaven responds to your voice. When you speak, things move in the spiritual realm. When you pray, resistance breaks. When you declare, circumstances rearrange. The first demonstration will shock you. A simple word spoken without planning, a casual prayer offered without ceremony, a quiet command given without fanfare. And suddenly, instant manifestation. Immediate change. Visible result. This isn't coincidence, it's confirmation. Religious spirits will rise to oppose this new authority. People comfortable with powerless faith will question your experience. Those invested in complexity will reject your simplicity. Those requiring permission will resent your freedom. Their opposition isn't personal, it's territorial. Authentic power threatens religious control. Your effectiveness challenges their explanations for ineffectiveness. The vindication comes not through arguments but through evidence. Those who accused you of arrogance will watch God back your boldness. Those who dismissed your calling will witness your commissioning. Those who questioned your sanity will see supernatural results. This vindication isn't for your ego, it's for your authority. Not to prove them wrong, but to prove God right. The most profound confirmation follows simple obedience. A small act of faith. A quiet step of trust. A private moment of surrender. Then, sudden, unmistakable divine response that proves the connection between your obedience and God's power. This transfer doesn't make you immune to weakness, but it makes you effective despite it. Your humanity remains, but your authority transcends it. Your limitations continue, but your impact exceeds them. You were never meant to carry this calling alone. Divine connections are forming that will complete what you lack. People carrying pieces that fit perfectly with yours. Gifts that complement your weaknesses. Strengths that support your vulnerabilities. These aren't just friends, they're strategic alliances, not chosen by preference but by purpose. Some will surprise you. Unlikely partnerships that make divine sense. People from different backgrounds, different perspectives, different experiences, united by shared calling. The recognition is mutual and immediate, a strange knowing, an instant trust, a soul-level familiarity. These connections bypass normal relationship development, establishing in moments what usually takes months. With these alliances come supernatural resources. Each person brings not just themselves but their access, their influence, their knowledge, their networks, their provision. Together, you hold keys that unlock doors too heavy for any individual. What you couldn't accomplish in years of solitary effort, you'll complete in months of united purpose. What seemed impossible alone becomes inevitable together. The acceleration defies natural explanation. Opposition will arise from unexpected spiritual territories, principalities that remain dormant until they recognize the threat of your combined authority. Powers that ignored you individually now mobilize against your collective impact. This heightened resistance proves the legitimacy of your alliance. The enemy doesn't waste resources fighting powerless partnerships. The breakthrough victory that follows establishes new spiritual ground. Territory long held by darkness, suddenly yielding to light. Strongholds considered impenetrable, suddenly crumbling. Battles fought for generations suddenly ending. This victory doesn't just change circumstances. It changes spiritual geography. It redraws boundary lines. It reclaims stolen heritage. It restores rightful authority. What you establish together becomes a foundation for others to build upon. Your alliance isn't temporary, it's generational. The connections forming now will impact beyond your lifetime, creating legacy that outlasts you. Christmas morning arrives with revelation that transcends the holiday. As others open physical gifts, you receive spiritual insight. Divine timing suddenly makes perfect sense. All those prophetic words spoken over you, fragments that seemed disconnected, promises that appeared contradictory, timelines that felt impossible, suddenly align into perfect clarity. Like scattered puzzle pieces instantly forming a complete picture. What seemed delayed was actually precisely timed. What felt like waiting was actually preparation. What appeared as setback was actually setup. Your personal transformation was never the end goal. It was the necessary beginning of something far greater. The healing you received, the deliverance you experienced, the renewal you underwent. All of it was calibration for global impact. See now how your private struggles were training for public victory, how your personal pain equipped you for collective healing, how your intimate lessons prepared you for widespread teaching. Your strategic spiritual position becomes clear, why you needed to be in specific places, why certain relationships were essential, why particular experiences were necessary. You were being positioned not by preference but by purpose. This isn't coincidence, it's convergence. Multiple divine timelines intersecting at this precise moment in history. Your healing timeline, your gifting timeline, your authority timeline, your relationship timeline, all converging now. The commissioning comes without fanfare, but with undeniable clarity. Specific assignment, defined territory, clear boundaries, exact timing. Not a general calling, but a precise commission that leaves no room for confusion. This assignment feels simultaneously impossible and inevitable, beyond your capability, but perfectly aligned with your preparation. Too significant for your strength, but perfectly matched to your authority. The final confrontation isn't what you expected. Not dramatic spiritual showdown, but quiet, authoritative finality. Not exhausting battle, but settled victory. Not desperate struggle, but confident completion. This confrontation isn't with circumstances, but with principalities. Not with symptoms, but with sources. Not with people, but with powers. The primary opposition that orchestrated all lesser attacks finally faces your matured authority. Complete deliverance comes from lingering soul ties, those invisible connections to past relationships, old agreements, former identities, previous alignments, ties that drained your energy, divided your focus, and diluted your authority. These aren't just emotional attachments, but spiritual contracts that required divine cancellation. Watch how their sudden severance releases energy you didn't know was being diverted, clarity you didn't realize was being clouded, authority you didn't understand was being undermined. The supernatural demonstration proves divine backing beyond question. Not subtle confirmation, but undeniable validation. Not private assurance, but public evidence. Not subjective feeling, but objective result. This demonstration isn't primarily for your confidence, but for kingdom advancement. Others, witnessing it, experience faith activation. Seeing your victory catalyzes their courage. Your breakthrough becomes their beginning. The strategic breakthrough affects far beyond your personal sphere. Like dropping a stone in water, the impact ripples outward. Families suddenly experiencing freedom, communities witnessing unexpected healing, organizations finding surprising favor. What God does through you creates pathways for others. Your victory isn't isolated but infectious. Your breakthrough isn't individual but collective. Your authority isn't personal but representative. Recognition comes from spiritual authorities who previously seemed unaware of your existence. Those with established position suddenly acknowledging your calling. Those with recognized influence confirming your authority. Those with proven track records validating your assignment. This recognition isn't about elevation but about confirmation. Heaven's final stamp of approval manifested through earthly acknowledgement, proving that what was initiated in secret is now established in sight. The transformation is complete. Like butterfly emerging from chrysalis, you now exist in a form that bears little resemblance to where you began. The integration isn't partial, it's total. Not just adapting your old self, but becoming your true self. This awakened identity feels simultaneously foreign and familiar, new, yet more authentic than anything you've previously experienced. Not an improved version of who you were, but the original version of who you were created to be. The promised spiritual inheritance now manifests tangibly. Gifts operating without strain, wisdom flowing without effort, authority functioning without doubt, peace residing without disruption, purpose advancing without confusion. This inheritance isn't just for function, it's for fulfillment. The deep satisfaction of moving in alignment with design, the profound contentment of operating in authenticity, the quiet joy of living from essence rather than expectation. Notice the supernatural peace that remains regardless of circumstances, not denial of reality but transcendence of it. Not ignorance of problems, but perspective beyond them. Not absence of conflict, but presence of certainty. This peace isn't fragile, it's foundational. Not dependent on conditions, but established in completion. Not vulnerable to disruption, but rooted in finality. Not subject to moods, but anchored in truth. The prophetic vision for the coming season brings clarity without anxiety. You see challenges without fear, obstacles without worry, opposition without dread. The future holds mystery but not terror, questions but not panic. This vision isn't wishful thinking, it's divine intelligence. Not hopeful projection, but heavenly revelation. Not optimistic imagination, but accurate foreknowledge. A divine seal now protects this completed transformation. What God has established cannot be undone. What heaven has activated cannot be deactivated. What the Spirit has integrated cannot be disintegrated. This seal isn't just protection, it's certification, heaven's official approval, God's formal commissioning, Spirit's final authorization. The old you is truly over. The new creation has fully emerged. What began at midnight has completed at dawn. Christmas marks not just Christ's birth, but your rebirth. Before you go, chosen one, don't forget, the fact that you made it to the end of this message means something. Your spirit needed this. Don't walk away without subscribing. It costs nothing, but it means everything for the journey God is taking you on. Join the family. Your breakthrough might be in the next video.